Great. Well, it's nice to be here. Thank you all for having me. I'm from Vonage, and we're going to go through together a slightly different angle. We've looked at it very much from the operator side today, and I'm part of the overall pre-sales teams in Europe, and I think I'd like to share what the customer actually does with the actual use cases, what's actually being done by the end user. And so we're going to focus on delivering outcomes with CPaaS, and we're going to focus on one specific item, which is going to be network APIs. And I'm going to take you through two use cases, one in the financial services and one in the mobility space. And we'll have a look with real metrics of what people are doing and why they made these choices. And I think we'll come back to a couple of points from the meetings today and the meetings yesterday, is becoming a genuine focus for everybody. Me, when I was 20 on my LinkedIn photo, still haven't managed to update it. So I'll start with a funny story, okay? So we always talk about this wonderful technology that's changed over the years, but in fact, if we step back a little bit, it all started with this kind of telephony and the first SMS. Does anybody remember when the first SMS got sent out? If you don't know, then I've done this joke a couple of times, but when you're in a kind of less telco group, I'd expect them not to know, but do you? Early 90s, 1992. Okay, and if you think about what happened then, end of the sort of 1990s, 2000, phones became affordable, so there were more and more phones. Then phones became better, thank God for that. And when you get about 2008, iPhone, Apple Store, okay, that's when people started adding applications. One of the first busy apps was WhatsApp, 2009. Okay? And then bit by bit, we've been moving and we've been creating wonderful applications. Think of what you can do today. You can book a taxi, book food, you can go and invest in cryptocurrency on the other side of the world. But how do you authenticate? You receive the same OTP that you were receiving 23 years ago. More than that, sorry, 33 years ago. Okay? So actually that technology hasn't changed. And the hackers, and there's lots of other items I'm going to cover, have kind of leverage this mechanism in order to carry out all kinds of clever scams, and this is what we're going to look at today. Okay, for those of you who haven't heard about Vonage, we're one of the sponsors there. We're right at the top, so hopefully by now you've identified us. We had obviously our CMO yesterday who did the keynote and who spoke a bit about what we did. Roughly, we're people buying off Gamma, or should be buying off Gamma. And on one side, we do all of the APIs, which will be voice, signaling, voice messaging of all types, the WhatsApps, the SMS, the RCS, and all the other technology. And on the other side, we do all of the network APIs. And this is where everything's going forward. And this is also what we're going to focus on today. Okay, and we're going to focus it on today because it's part of what we do. Okay, we speak to customers, obviously, but we speak to developers and product managers, and we're there to really help people build the products that they need, that they are in turn going to sell to their customers. So 100K enterprise customers, 1.6 million developers using the platform. And this is a couple of our customers. So some of them are across the river. I noticed where I went running this morning, and I recognized one along the river. But again, what you realize is that no matter what the company is, focus on the industry. It's industry agnostic. Whatever the industry, they're using a CPaaS player in order to carry out their B2C communication. Okay, and for those of you who haven't heard, so we were bought out actually by Ericsson about 2 years ago, and the reality is that Ericsson sells 50% of the mobile kit to the operators around the world, and they're trying to leverage, obviously, all of that operator kit in order to maximize its usage, and by doing that, including it, embedding it into all the applications that you use every day. And the way is obviously the CPaaS, because they're the people who are who can offer these services to all the app builders. Okay. So the key topic I'd like to cover is actually network APIs versus fraud. Okay, and I quite like this picture because I got ChatGPT to build it for me. But what was really interesting is that we talk about fraud and we talk about compliance. And I liked your previous one, Mike, where you said that 100% of the fraud came from CPaaS. I hope 100% is a bit harsh. But there is for sure a portion of it. And it's not necessarily our fault. We put a lot of effort into trying to block, but we're then opening to a whole raft, 1.6 million people, of which 1.5 don't always know what they're doing. Yeah? So we've got to put a lot of blocks in place and protections. And in turn, we've got bad actors who are trying to make money out of this. And I'll cover what these are. So network APIs 1, fraud 0. And I'll tell you why. If you look at the fraud today, it's $10 trillion. Okay, and this is kind of all kinds of fraud put together. And the main top ones are synthetic identity fraud, so people stealing various other, account takeover, authorized push payments, okay, this is all the pay for this, you know, and AIT, which is artificially inflated traffic. I don't know if you remember, but a few years ago, Elon Musk threw a wobbly and wrote out on Twitter that 40% of the Twitter SMS was AIT. Yeah, he's probably right. Yeah. And so, again, lots of mechanisms put in place in order to block that. So I'm going to take 2 use cases. The first one is in financial services, and it's a company called Lydia or Sumeria. Okay? So it's it's the leading neobank in France. It's a bit like Revolut. Okay? Think of the French Revolut. And they do sort of micropayments, one-to-one. They've now got bank accounts. And their biggest problem was fraud, funnily enough. Okay? And people trying to sort of to perform account takeover. And the other thing which is really important is that in the same idea of WhatsApp, their key unique identifier was a phone number. Okay, so it's not an email, it's nothing. If you want to send money to somebody else, you just put in the phone number and you send money. Okay, so what that meant is that all of the authentication goes around the phone number as well. Okay, and I think, well, how do we actually secure this? How do we secure this at scale? So for those who are fluent in French, this is what the actual interface looks like. Okay, so you plug in, let's have a look at it. You put in your phone number. Okay, and it's essentially just a 2FA, but you put in your phone number, patiently, there you go, you put in your phone number at the top, okay? What then takes place, what then happens is a little spinner, okay? And actually what it's done, it's gone and validated with the network operator, in this case it was Orange, it's gone and validated the phone number, made sure, exchanged a fancy token, and then validate it straight in the app. So no SMS was sent out, nobody ever left the app. And what did that actually result in? So it resulted in 50% reduce in latency, okay, which is key for something like that, because otherwise you've always got, I've got some slides that go into a bit more detail, but the slower the experience, the more drop-off you get. 100%, not quite 100%, it's just easy to write 100%. 99% of elimination of SMS social engineering, okay? The biggest problem for a bank, I was speaking to quite a lot of banks at the moment, and they said, look, I don't care about the PIN, okay? I don't, the SMS as a channel, it works. Okay, I can send a code, you put it in, it's all right. My problem is that today, scammers manage to convince my average customer to give them the PIN. So when it results in all the banking transaction, all of this clever, fancy mechanism, at the end of the day, the owner of the bank account gave the PIN to the hacker who then stole the money. It's like having a car, you give the keys of the car to the thief, and you go, take the car. And then you go to the insurance, go, I can't stand, they stole my car. It's exactly the same story, okay? So by doing this and by using network APIs, there's actually no more code, no more PIN to share. Yeah? And if you can't pass it, then basically all the flags go off, and then you can get somebody to call, you can do automation, you can do 100,000 other checks. But this is like the gateway in order to lower total cost of ownership. Why? Because it converts better. I'll tell you a bit more about that later. And currently, they are the largest operator, largest user of this new feature in France. Okay? So I realize my slide's a little bit long, so I'll just jump through. But I think what you've realized, if you look at the bank, their problem is that the SMS takes place outside the SMS exchange, and as part of the onboarding, the customer needs to leave the application. Okay, sounds silly, okay? But if I'm logging in, I'm doing something, and then the SMS is not immediate, then, in the meantime, my wife, my kids, my family, everybody's sent me 30,000 WhatsApps. I've then gone and checked my emails. I've gone done this, gone done that. I'll come back 15 minutes later when my PIN arrives. It's no longer, it's expired. So in fact, the whole process, I've got to go back in order to complete the sign up, just because that item, that SMS didn't come in time. Okay, that's the first. From a user experience, a customer experience, that's the biggest problem. And the other one is the social engineering that we covered before. Okay? But it just shows you these are actually the problems that, beyond what we think we're trying to do, these are the problems that the customers have. Well, the apps and our customers have. Okay, so what they wanted to do, they kind of rethought the whole process. So we can do better than this. So they think, so they want the sign-up conversion rate should improve. Okay, it's already good with SMS, but they want to improve it because each person who can't log in, it's either a lost customer if it's sign up, or it's a pissed off customer who's going to create a support ticket. Okay, so if they can maximize that, that's the most important, and it's got to be seamless. If it happens inside, then it's even better. And again, as I said, if there's no SMS exchange, there's no SMS to be given to anybody else. Okay, and in a nutshell, this is how it works. Okay, so the person logs in. Okay, they do various level of IP checks, all the stuff that they would do today. They call, in this case, the Vonage verify, which is our tool that on which we embed all of these network APIs, and then it basically contacts the operator over the 3G, 4G, 5G network, and the operator does that check. And suddenly, all of this knowledge that the operators have had about the customers through the SIM card is suddenly used. The big question for operators is, why didn't they do this 20 years ago? Yeah? 20 years ago, they had a unique device, a unique SIM card that should have been used as an authentication mechanism in a much better way for a lot longer. But they never did it. And finally, this is they never did it well and at scale. There were various initiatives. And this is how they do it. So they check phone number, IP address. It's on their own private network as an operator, and it works. Okay? And they get validated. So what did it result in? Okay, so for them, it's a 22% drop in the sign-up process. Okay, so it's like dropout rate. So let me just say that again. It's 20% a reduction of dropout in their sign-up process. Okay, so it dropped. So they only had like 2% left, and it's a 99% account takeover, a reduction of account takeover fraud. And that was the cornerstone. That was the two main metrics that they were trying to address. Okay. I've got some more metrics later, but SMS, this is conversion of SMS versus silent authentication. So SMS, sending the code, putting the code in, all rather basic. But then with silent authentication, or authentification silencieuse if you have to translate everything, it was 92%. And that was through one iteration, one event. Okay? And that was done across 6 million verified users that they can reach on these various systems. And again, what's two key metrics? They reduced the speed, they reduced the latency of sign-up by 3 to 5 times, yeah? And the overall customer experience was a lot better. Okay? So that was first use case on financial services. Second use case is mobility. Have you ever heard of Cabify? Have anybody used Cabify? Good. Cabify is a bit like Uber. They've kind of shared out the world, and Cabify does Latin America, Spain, and lots of other Southern Europe countries. And they've got different problems, okay? So clearly the problem with Cabify is not really people trying to steal money off their account, okay? The problem with Cabify was to reduce abandon rates at sign-up. Why? Because when customers arrive in a place, they haven't got a taxi, they haven't got a taxi app, they look at the airport and they go, right, big Cabify signposts. So you have to be able to onboard these people as fast as you can, because if they don't use your service, they're using somebody else's service. Okay, that was their biggest pain point. And with the same platform, the same technology, and this is another use case again, another example, they reduced the time to onboard 50%. They decreased exposure to OTP compromise. So that was people again sharing by accident so the OTP compromise is actually two people sharing the same account, okay? Because often maybe I've got an account, maybe I've got a premium account and I share it with my wife and it's all very convenient. But that's what these kind of people, a bit like Netflix, a bit like Disney+, they're all trying to kill that behavior because it's reducing all of their margins, okay? And then sign-up completions increased, and they can reach 50 million people worldwide using silent authentication, okay? So it was not actually a niche little tool now, as some people see it. It's actually something which is going to ever increase over the coming months, coming years. I'll just skip this one. So again, these are the key points that they had beyond the sign-up. Fake accounts, okay? And I'll tell you another funny story about fake accounts. You know, in the music industry, they've got the big Spotify, Deezer, we know these customers. They've got another type of fraud, which is actually linked to fake accounts in order to increase your visibility. So if I'm a band and I'm not very good and I need a bit more visibility, I can pay people to create false accounts to come and vote for me so that I go up in the charts, in the Spotify charts. More people listen to my music. and it's a circle of improvement of my music. It's still as bad as it ever was, but suddenly I'm a lot better. Account sharing we discussed, and AIT. Okay, suddenly we mentioned about AIT and all this traffic coming out, but if there is no longer any SMS, there's no longer any AIT, and hackers will quickly move on to go and annoy somebody else. And how do we carry out all of these various features in turn for Cabify? Because they have another problem as well, is that we embed the network APIs in an application API that just sits above. And what does it do? It allows an omni-channel validation across all of these channels. First one being signed authentication, but also other failover channels like SMS and WhatsApp and RCS. Why? Because when you go to Latin America, okay, whether you're a Spanish user, you go to Latin America, maybe that signed authentication doesn't work. And maybe by the time the SMS comes in, it takes time for your systems to sign up. But you may receive a WhatsApp within a split second. Yeah? And so all of this failover strategy is all embedded into the Vonage tools. And that's why application developers around the world use it, because it makes their life easier. And it's the path of least resistance for everybody. Just a few metrics before I finish off. Any statisticians? My wife's a statistician, so I've become very knowledgeable on the topic and all these graphs and stuff. But in a nutshell, if you have to look at it, that black line is the 15-second delivery time. Yeah? Okay? What you realize is when you use SMS with various iterations and trying, and it could be other channels as well, is that it works well very quickly. But if you're not there, then you're anywhere there. Yeah? And that means you've got a long tail of users who could be waiting up to 60 seconds, getting an SMS and going completely nuts in order to convert, in order to make sure to have that verification take place. Whereas if you look at signed authentication, I'm standing in front of it, what you realize is that the peak is there. It's what? 3 and a bit? Actually, it probably isn't here somewhere. Yeah, so the average is 4 seconds, okay? So what that means is that the reach of signed authentication in countries where it's supported, it can vary between, 80 to 90%. But what that means is that you've got basically 90% of your people who can convert within 5 seconds religiously. Yeah? Compared to your P90 there is 31 seconds for SMS. So actually, it's same cost, same effort, same thing, better customer experience, you get better conversion. Okay? And that's why all of the apps today are looking into this. Again, this is the conversion rates of SMS versus signed authentications. And you can see how when you start blending the various tools together, yeah, be it an SMS failover, a WhatsApp failover, an RCS failover, you actually get to levels of conversion and levels of fraud security, which are much higher than anything that exists today. Okay? Little table we can share the slides with. Come speak to us at the booth if you want a bit more information, but it just gives you an idea of what the reach is today across a number of European countries and the US, across the various channels. And again, the whole point is that it's not about having a focus on one channel or another channel or a third channel. Actually, nobody gives a damn. What's important is, does the customer like the app that's being built by the developer, and can the developer achieve what he's trying to achieve in terms of verification, validation, as quickly as possible? And so this is what all these customers are doing, and there's, obviously can't share, but just about every financial service in Europe is looking at this. Okay, every mobility app is looking at this. Okay, so again, and to come back, and it doesn't mean that voice is dead. It doesn't mean that SMS is dead. It just means that there's a broader scope now of APIs that's being opened, which is a network API. And just to name a few, that are coming, stuff like, how do we do it? We've got number insights, okay, identity insights, branded communication, the ability to call inside mobile apps. So instead of calling you from my plus 44.1, I can be calling in-app going, this is, Vonage is not a great example, it could be Revolut, yeah? Calling you in-app, and it's a call from Revolut as if somebody were calling you on WhatsApp. That's where things are coming. So it's kind of using another channel to reach out to your users, more trust. Again, identity insights. I think I've got a clever little table here, which basically tells you've got the ability to check subscriber information. Like I'm going to go, right, I think I've got Marc. We'll go to the operator, is this Marc? And they'll go yes or no. And there's more and more of these features. There's lots of regulation around it, but there's more and more of these features that will be made available for developers through Vonage. And you probably heard also that, I think maybe in the crowd as well, Aduna yeah, which is now the joint venture between operators and Ericsson in order to provide all of these network APIs globally. Yeah. If anybody wants to have a play, this is the QR code where you can install it, run it, and see what it looks like. I'll leave it on this page. But again, if you've got, hopefully it was interesting. And again, focus on real-life use cases. And it's not about technology. It really is about the user experience. And we'll talk here to make money at the end of the day. We make money by making stuff which is useful and that can actually deliver value to the end users. Any questions? Then it must have been very clear.
I have maybe one before we move off. Because what I'm confused about, right? So we talk about fraud, it's such an obvious use case, and you talk all of the, in Europe, widely available, a lot of APIs already. Why are they not being implemented? So what's stopping, really?
Yeah, I'll tell you what's stopping is bit by bit. The use cases have always been there, but what lacked was the kind of operator's ability, sometimes investment, sometimes ability, sometimes just decision to deliver it at scale, to make it available as a service.
So the supply side is the operator side is the issue.
Yeah.
Still. Operators get faster. It's good that I have an operator now on stage, so thank you to you.